Hello, hello, hello! Good to see you again! I hope you're doing extremely well! Welcome back to this new video of the series How About Living In, which brings us today in a magical setting combining luxury and nature, nestled among secluded coves, unspoiled trails, and elegant, refined villas steeped in history. When people think about the French Riviera, they imagine yachts, luxury villas, pine trees, and that effortless Mediterranean glamour. Today, we are in the place that captures all of that in one single location. One of the most exclusive peninsulas in the world, with unique privacy and sea views everywhere. An ultra-prime real estate. Ladies and gentlemen, the Cap d'Antibes! The Cap d'Antibes Peninsula is located south of a line connecting the port of Croton to that of La Salis. Geographically speaking, the Cap d'Antibes is technically the southern strip of the peninsula. This one, but in everyday language, the name refers to the entire cape. Stretching approximately 5 kilometers into the Mediterranean Sea, Cap d'Antibes forms a natural divider between the historic town of Antibes and the vibrant seaside resort of Juan-les-Pins. It also sits strategically between Nice, about 30 minutes east, and Cannes, about 20 minutes west, making it both accessible and remarkably private. What makes Cap d'Antibes truly unique is its diversity of coastline. The peninsula alternates between sandy beaches, hidden rocky coves, dramatic cliffs, and lush Mediterranean pine forests. Much of the land is protected from overdevelopment, which has helped preserve its wild and exclusive character. This natural protection, combined with the peninsula's panoramic sea exposure, has made Cap d'Antibes one of the most sought-after residential locations on the French Riviera, where geography and lifestyle are inseparable. Cap d'Antibes didn't start as a luxury destination, not even close. So, what's changed? How did this rugged piece of land become one of the most Riviera iconic addresses? Well, the story of Cap d'Antibes is deeply connected to the story of Antibes itself. If you want the full deep dive, I actually made an entire video about Antibes. You will find the link right below in the description. Now, here's the fascinating part. For centuries, Cap d'Antibes was basically wild land, and honestly, a little dangerous. Unlike Antibes, which was shielded behind massive ramparts, the Cape was fully exposed to the sea and to potential invasions. Back then, living close to the shoreline wasn't exactly considered prime real estate. Hard to imagine today, right? Everything started to shift in 1481, when Provence officially became part of France. Antibes suddenly gained major strategic importance. It became the last defensive stronghold of the French kingdom, directly facing the county of Nice, which at the time belonged to the powerful state of Savoy. Fast forward to 1860, Nice finally became French territory, and overnight, Antibes lost its military role. But here's the twist. That was actually fantastic news for the city. Without military pressure, parts of the defensive ramparts could finally be demolished, allowing Antibes to breathe and expand. Development slowly moved toward Cap d'Antibes. First came agriculture and horticulture, large flowers farms and gardens that supplied the European markets. Then came the real transformation. In 1882, Juan-les-Pins, that we see just behind, just there, where you see those modern buildings there, Juan-les-Pins was officially created as a seaside resort. And timing couldn't have been better. The French Riviera was exploding onto the global luxury tourism scene. European aristocracy, American millionaires, artists, writers, and celebrities all started arriving. By the early 20th century, Juan-les-Pins had become one of the most fashionable summer destinations in Europe. It attracted icons like Scott Fitzgerald, Pablo Picasso, Marlene Dietrich, and the Kennedy family, all drawn by the same combination that still defines the area today: glamour, privacy, sunshine, and that unmistakable Riviera lifestyle. And little by little, Cap d'Antibes evolved from wild coastal land into one of the most exclusive residential peninsulas in the world. And as tourism flourished along the Riviera in the early 20th century, something interesting started to happen. visitors didn't just come to Cap d'Antibes for the beaches anymore. They started coming for the privacy, for the light, for the feeling of being surrounded by nature, while still being minutes away from the social life of the Riviera. Wealthy families, aristocrats, artists, and later international business elites began purchasing land along the Cape, building extraordinary properties designed to blend elegance with discretion. Unlike many Riviera locations that developed rapidly, Cap d'Antibes evolved carefully. Strict urban planning, limited available land, and strong preservation of natural landscapes helped maintain its exclusivity over time. And this unique combination created something extremely rare in real estate, a location where supplies has always remained limited, while global demand has only continued to grow. Today, Cap d'Antibes is home to some of the most iconic villas of the French Riviera, properties that are not only residences, but part of the region's cultural and architectural heritage. Okay, going up to the Phare de la Garoupe with my electric bike. Everything in an electric bike. In Nice, you can go everywhere with your electric bike, even Cap d'Antibes. And we're going to the Phare de la Garoupe to see if there's a beautiful view out from there. I don't remember very well, so we're going to check it out. Yeah, I know. I have deep breath and it's electric because I have almost no battery. Been touring, been shooting all day long. See, we are arrived, and here it is, the nice view. Now let's talk about the real stars of the Cap d'Antibes, the villas, because here properties are not just beautiful, they're storytellers. Every gate, every pine tree driveway, every hidden terrace usually comes with a chapter of Riviera history attached to it. Take Villa Souvent, for example, located right next to the famous Bay of Billionaires. Yes, that is an actual name, and no, it's not subtle. The villa, surrounded by a spectacular botanic park, was designed by renowned architect Barry Dirks. But its most discreet and probably most famous guest was Charles de Gaulle, who chose the property in 1946 to quietly recharge after leading France through one of the most intense periods in its history. Unfortunately, I couldn't show you the Bay of the Billionaires today because the path to go to the bay was closed for repairs. Then you have one of the crown jewels of the Cape, the Château de la Croix. Built in 1927 for British press magnate Sir William Pomroe Burton, the estate stretches across 7 hectares of waterfront land, which, in Riviera language, translates to almost impossible to replicate today. Between 1938 and 1949, the chateau became the glamorous residence of former British King Edward VIII and Wallis Simpson. And let's just say, they did not move to Cap d'Antibes for the quiet life. Lavish receptions, international high society, champagne flowing, the villa quickly became one of the Riviera's most legendary party addresses. In 1951, the property was purchased by Greek shipping tycoon Aristotle Onassis, who later shared the estate with his wife Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. The villa was sold in 1970, following Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis' passing, but that same year, tragedy struck when a major fire severely damaged both the house and the surrounding park. The estate then sat abandoned for nearly 3 decades, which, under Riviera, is basically the real estate equivalent of Sleeping Beauty. Eventually, it was restored to its former glory by a new owner, proving once again that Cap d'Antibes properties tend to have second acts. And because Riviera real estate always comes with at least a little gossip, a more recent owner once obtained permission from the local town hall to build a massive private pontoon offshore, large enough to dock 3 mega yachts. Yes, 3. Not 1, 3. I have 3 bicycles? Well, why not yachts? However, the Préfecture des Alpes-Maritimes stepped in and refused final authorization despite significant underwater construction already being installed. Even billionaires sometimes get a no in France. Another fascinating property is Villa des Chanvers, built in 1866 and closely tied to literary history. The legendary writer Jules Verne stayed here several times while collaborating with playwright Adolphe Dennery on theatrical adaptations of his novels, including Around the World in 80 Days. Now, here's the twist. Jules Verne adored the villa itself, but strongly disliked his host's lifestyle, which he reportedly considered as, let's say, socially adventurous. So much so that in his novel Off on a Comet, Verne imagines the complete destruction of a lavish villa located at the tip of Cap d'Antibes, widely believed to be inspired by this very property. Dans cette ville-là, sans doute quelques somptueuses habitations bâties presque à l'extrémité du Cap d'Antibes, dans le plus beau site du monde, que restait-il à présent? Pas même ce morceau de marbre qui venait d'être réduit en poussière. Now, while Cap d'Antibes is famous for its billionaire villas, not every historic property here belongs to private owners. Some of them belong to something just as valuable: heritage, science, and culture. Take the beautiful Villa Thurey, for example, which is one of the Riviera's most fascinating botanical sanctuaries. The estate was once described by writer Georges Sand as an Eden that seems to float in immensity. And honestly, when you walk through it, that description still holds up very well. The property was created by botanist Gustave Thurey, who acquired 5 hectares of land to build a research villa dedicated to studying the acclimatization of exotic plant species, essentially testing which plants could successfully adapt to Mediterranean conditions. After Thurey's death, his sister-in-law purchased the estate and donated it to the French state, with one very specific condition: the property had to remain dedicated to scientific education. And thankfully, that promise was kept. Today, Villa Thurey is attached to INRE, the National Research Institute for Agriculture, Food and the Environment. The site includes laboratories, herbariums, research libraries, and a stunning 3.5-hectare botanical garden that is open to visitors. If you love gardens, shade, and discovering plant species from around the world, this place is a hidden gem. I'll drop the link in the description. Another extraordinary property open to the public is the iconic Villa Eilenroc. This magnificent neoclassical residence sits on 11 hectares of landscaped grounds just steps from the sea, which on Cap d'Antibes basically qualifies as a small kingdom. Built between 1860 and 1867, the villa was once occupied by Leopold II of Belgium, but its modern legacy comes from its last private owner, Madame Hélène Beaumont, who donated the estate to the city of Antibes under one beautiful condition: the villa had to be preserved and open to the public as a cultural and natural heritage site. The city honored that vision by launching an extensive restoration program covering the architecture, interiors, and gardens. And in 2004, an eco-museum was added, completing the transformation of the estate into a living cultural landmark. Between the olive groves, the rose gardens, and the panoramic sea views, this is easily one of the most elegant public villas on the Riviera. And pro tip, if you visit in May, the rose garden is absolutely spectacular. Villa Eilenroc also comes with a fun fictional twist. In his alternate history novel, The Beatles Are Back Again, writer Arnaud Udelot imagines the Beatles recording music inside the Villa Eilenroc. A fun literary fantasy and a clear nod to the very real moment when the Rolling Stones rented Villa Nelcote in Villefranche-sur-Mer in 1971 to record their legendary album, which raises a very important and possibly unresolvable Riviera question. If the Beatles had actually recorded at Cap d'Antibes, would the peninsula today be more "Here Comes the Sun" or permanently stuck between sympathy for the Riviera and paint in Côte d'Azur? Some debates, like property prices on the Cap, may simply never be settled. But as stunning as the villas are, the real luxury of Cap d'Antibes isn't behind the gates, it's outside them. Cap d'Antibes is first and foremost a protected natural sanctuary and one of the most preserved coastal environments on the entire French Riviera. The peninsula is safeguarded by several major environmental protections, including Natura 2000, the Pelago Sanctuary for Mediterranean marine mammals, and the Conservatoire du Littoral. And on the Riviera, where coastline is often synonymous with development pressure, that level of protection is extremely rare and extremely valuable. With a population density of only about 394 residents per square kilometer, one of the lowest along the coastline, Cap d'Antibes offers something really precious: silence, especially outside the peak summer season, when the peninsula feels like a private nature reserve shared only with locals, walkers, and the occasional overly confident jogger tackling hills they immediately regret. So guys, while I was doing my video, I was just talking about silence down there and heard some music in the background, and then I discovered this. mean, this is just unexpected in Cap d'Antibes. The Cape covers roughly 3.7 square kilometers of land surrounded by sea, and it offers some of the most spectacular coastal hiking trails on the Riviera. One of the most iconic begins just after the small port of La Salis and climbs toward the Garoupe plateau. This area leads into the famous Bois de la Garoupe, one of the true green lungs of the Côte d'Azur, filled with umbrella pines, eucalyptus, and Mediterranean vegetation that perfume the air in a way that no luxury candle has ever successfully replicated. Then there's a beautiful Tire-Poil coastal trail starting from La Garoupe beach and winding along the shoreline all the way toward Villa Eilenroc. Along the way, you pass hidden coves, turquoise inlets, rocky bays, and viewpoints that feel almost suspiciously perfect, like nature showing off just a little. But Cap d'Antibes isn't only extraordinary above water. Below the surface, the ecosystem is just as remarkable. The crystal-clear Mediterranean here shelters vast Posidonia seagrass meadows, one of the most vital marine species on the planet. These underwater forests host more than 400 species of marine life, protect the coastline from erosion, and produce roughly 14 liters of oxygen per square meter every day. Which, fun fact, makes them oxygen overachievers compared to many terrestrial forests, including parts of the Amazon. Snorkeling and diving around the Cap reveal a surprisingly rich underwater world. Along the underwater discovery trail starting at the Batterie du Graillon, you can encounter wrasses, sea urchins, starfish, octopuses, scorpionfish, and if you venture slightly deeper, even moray eels and brown meager. The area also hosts a sea turtle care center, and yes, if you're lucky, you might spot one gliding past you like it owns the Mediterranean. Which, to be fair, it kind of does. And this is ultimately what defines Cap d'Antibes. It's a place where ultra-prime real estate and raw Mediterranean nature don't compete, they coexist. Where million-euros villas sit quietly behind pine forests, while public coastal trails remain open to anyone willing to explore them. Because here, exclusivity isn't about closing doors, it's about preserving something rare. Unlike many parts of the Riviera where developments came first, Cap d'Antibes grew around its natural environment. Strict protections, limited buildable land, and decades of careful planning have kept the peninsula remarkably untouched. And in real estate, that creates something incredibly powerful, true scarcity, because buying property here isn't just about location. It's about owning a piece of one of the most protected and exclusive coastlines in Europe. So let's take a closer look at what real estate on Cap d'Antibes actually looks like today. Let's start reasonably with this nice 5-bedroom apartment of 133 square meters, located in the heart of Le Cap, in a small and peaceful condominium, sold by LR Luxury Rentals at 1,700,000 euros, or approximately 12,800 euros per square meter. Let's continue with this very good opportunity for the area, a charming Provençal-style house of 192 square meters living space and 300 square meters total space, a land of 1,000 square meters and 5 bedrooms. This house would deserve a well-thought renovation, including landscaping, and it's sold by Michael Zingraf at nearly 2 million euros, or around 10,000 euros per square meter, based on the living space, which is a very reasonable price for Cap d'Antibes. Let's dive now into luxury with this beautiful house of 347 square meters, built on a plot of land of 2,600 square meters, ensuring total privacy in the most exclusive part of Cap d'Antibes. This house offers 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, a large swimming pool and lots of space, and is being sold by Engel & Volkers at 7,500,000 euros or 21,600 euros per square meters. And finally, let's jump to super luxury with this exceptional mansion nested in a 10,000 square meter park with swimming pool, of course, 5 master bedrooms, a huge living room, a fitness room, an elevator, and that's it? Well, not exactly. This house comes also with a small guest house, including 3 master bedrooms, hammam, massage room, and an apartment for staff with 2 bedrooms. And that's it? Almost! The house comes also with an additional house of 200 square meters on the waterfront at 5 minutes driving, with 3 bedrooms and a swimming pool directly on the sea. The price of this estate is sold by Sotheby at 45 million euros or about 45,000 euros per square meter, although this measure doesn't have real meaning at this level of luxury. On Cap d'Antibes, just a few steps from Pointe du Graillon, there's a white mansion sitting right on the water. And when I say right on the water, I mean literally. Villa d'Occident, built in 1947, it sits directly on the water's edge. Beautiful? Absolutely. Simple? Not quite. Because no matter how old the property is or how remarkable its architecture may be, its owners are not exempt from one fundamental rule: public access to the seafront must be preserved. A coastal path runs just below the villa, and it must remain accessible. This villa actually occupies 764 square meters of public maritime domain. This means that what looks private isn't. It benefits from what's called a temporary occupation permit, an AOT. That means that the state allows the occupation, temporarily, and it must be renewed. In 2015, when renewal time came, the government said, fine, you can renew, but the public must be able to walk along the coast. Result? The owners had to build a proper footpath below the villa. Cost? 600,000 euros. Yes, to let people walk under your terrace. Welcome to French public law. This story is not just an anecdote, it highlights a crucial but often misunderstood concept: occupation of public property. If part of a house, terrace, pontoon, seawall, or any other structure encroaches on public domain, the consequences can be significant. A future buyer could 1. Lose the right to use the area, or 2. Be required to demolish existing structures, but also 3. Pay a redevance, occupation fee, or, in some cases, see the authorization withdrawn entirely. Why? Because public land in France is inalienable, meaning cannot be sold, and imprescriptible, meaning you don't become owner just because it's been there 30 years. Time does not legalize it. And it's not just about the seashore, it can concern lakefront properties, riverbanks, even houses near protected forests. The land registry, le cadastre, doesn't always tell the full story. Some irregular occupations simply don't appear, which means due diligence must go deeper. Yes, Riviera real estate sometimes comes with a PhD in French administration. Yes, ooh la 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 la, très compliqué. Now, here's the key. The seller must disclose this, and the notary must verify it. But, as a buyer, especially as an expat, you cannot assume everything is automatically safe. If this situation came up from one of our clients at FRH, we would verify directly with the authorities, challenge the documentation, and if necessary, add a clarification condition to the pre-contract. Because a dream property should not come with a hidden public law time bomb. On the French Riviera, the views may be private, but the coastline belongs to everyone. And knowing the difference, that's where expertise makes all the difference. You dream it, we verify it. I hope you enjoyed this tour of the Cap d'Antibes. If you did, please give the video your thumb up and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Stay tuned for the next episode. I'll bring you back to Nice to show you one of the next neighborhoods to be Riquier. And again, a big thank you for all of those who have hired us to find your dream property. Thanks for your trust and good vibes. It's always a fantastic journey for us to help you make your dream come true. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye now. I'm gonna go for a swim. I mean, almost. I mean, we could. Just perfect.